Here we go. Pregnancy and birth story. I'm not sure how many parts this is going to be, but I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible. But there's so much stuff that I want to say, so I don't know how long it'll be. But I want to start off by saying, so I had what you call a free birth, a free pregnancy too, where I had one ultrasound and the rest was from a pregnancy. The rest was completely God reliant. He was my physician. I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, and it probably sounds to some who are very still deeply rooted in the medical system, probably sounds unsafe. But that is completely opposite of what it was and what happened. So, a free birth means that it was just me and my husband and God giving birth. So I know that sounds really weird to some, but I assure you that it was completely spirit-led the whole time. And that's what he told me to do from the very beginning when I found out I was pregnant. And I was looking for kind of providers because we were in the process of moving. He told me that he wanted to shine his glory through this, and boy has he. And he wanted me to learn how to completely rely on him. Because here's the thing. Pregnancy is not a medical condition. It can be for some and for extreme circumstances, but it is not a medical condition. Birth is not a medical condition. It's a natural way of life. And it's a God-given creation. God created it. God creates life. God sustains us. God's our healer. And he knows our bodies better than any doctor who has been to school. And he wanted to show me himself through this. And I trusted him completely, even when those closest to me thought I was absolutely insane. So a lot of it's going to be about what he did throughout my pregnancy to keep me healthy, and what he did throughout my birth. That was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Anyway, 3 minutes almost is running out, so I'm going to start a new part and show you his glory. So when I got pregnant the third time, we were in another state, but we were in the process of moving back home. So yeah, I found out right before we decided to move back that we were pregnant with our third, and I wasn't even walking in the Father's commands for a full year yet. And I loved being up where we were because we were isolated from our family. We knew nobody. It was just us, and that is when the Father really worked on my heart, because I was alone. I was a stay-at-home mom of two. My husband was going to school, and I just cried out to him, and he showed me so much wisdom in that time. It was just like I was drinking at the fountain of life. It was amazing. I wish I could go back sometimes, because it gets a little muddled here sometimes. So anyway, I digress. But I know, bowl. So I was still trying to figure out how to walk in the Father's way out of the church, unlearn the lies, walk in the way Yeshua walked, and learning how to do Bible things in Bible ways. I was still very, very new, and I am very new now, 2 years in, but I had no idea how he orchestrated and wanted pregnancy and labor to happen, because I was still kind of figuring just the foundation out, if you know what I mean. And we were moving back. So when I found out I was pregnant, I prayed. I was like, Father, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do here. I already didn't trust the hospitals. Like with my second son, I was already having a problem with even going to the hospital there to give birth, because It was in 2020. People be crazy, like absolutely insane during that time. I didn't want to deal with it. I was already against any jabs for my second son, and that was a year before I came into the Father's Way. So I was already apprehensive about that, and I didn't know how to navigate through this. I didn't trust anybody at that point because, again, I was brand new to Torah, and if you have been brand new to Torah, you don't trust anybody but God because you've been lied to your whole life. So I prayed and asked how he wanted me to carry out this pregnancy, what he wanted to do with this pregnancy and this birth and this third child we were bringing into the world. And I asked if he could lead me, and boy did he. I call this life of a mom here. Yep. Anyway, so at the first trimester of my pregnancy, we moved back down to be with family, and lots of stuff happened family-wise in between that time, but there were a couple instances where I tried to find a midwife because I knew I wasn't going to birth in the hospital. I knew that was not in y'all's plan for me. I knew that it was going to be an intimate, beautiful experience. So he said, no hospitals. This is before I started researching what hospitals do that actually prevent a lot of things in birth. But anyway, I digress. We'll get there. So I attempted to find a midwife, and every avenue that I would try to go down, God would shut the door. He would say, nope. I did have one ultrasound. When we got back, I was about 6 weeks pregnant at this time, and it was a confirmation pregnancy, more for my husband than for anybody else. So I went in, confirmed pregnancy, and left, and we had just gotten back, and we were house hunting, living at our parents' house to try to find a house, and so I started looking into midwives because I fully expected to have my own house by the time baby got here. So I was going to do a home birth. I knew hospital wasn't an option. Since hospital wasn't an option, I wasn't going to go to the OB and have those routine checkups. I didn't fully trust those checkups anyways. I had been researching on why you even need them, and it turns out you don't really unless you have a problem. So I looked for a midwife. I didn't even look for a doula. I didn't know if I even wanted a doula. So I looked for a midwife, and each time I would look for one, a door would be closed. So a fellow sister mentioned that she was going to do a free birth. And I was like, what's a free birth? It's a at-home birth with just you and your husband. And for some reason, that gave me so much peace that I was like, that's what I need to do. That is what needs to happen. That's where he wants me to go with this. And I asked him, I said, why do you want me to do this? Because birth has always scared me in the past. And he's like, I'm going to shine my glory through this and through you. So thus began my journey in pregnancy with leaning completely on the Father and Yeshua. And need I say, there were a lot of challenges and a lot of pushback from the people around me because they just didn't understand. And I get how they don't understand, but we're not focusing on them. We're focusing on learning how to rely on the Father throughout my pregnancy and my delivery 100%. And that was the whole point. He told me that he wanted to shine his glory through me. And not only to shine his glory through me, but I trusted him completely to take care of my needs during the pregnancy and to take care of my needs during the labor and the birth and to give me the birth that he wanted me to have. And so two things. He was teaching me full trust when you don't go to a doctor throughout your pregnancy, when you're told to go to the doctor, you know, even though pregnancy is not a disease, it's a natural form of life, but we're told by man to rely on doctors, and he told me, rely on me, and I trusted him completely. When I came to Torah and I surrendered my life completely to him, 100%, I remember feeling I had a lack of trust before I did that. Throughout my whole life, I had a lack of trust in him, and that was the first time that I was like, I trust you completely, 100%, and nobody else I trust. So he was putting that faith and that trust that I had throughout this whole journey that he's brought me on into action. So he was teaching me how to fully rely and trust in him to meet my needs and to meet my wants and desires. And two, he was looking for a place to shine his glory, and I was an open vessel, and I wanted him to get the glory from this and not me. But anyway, so we got back. I went through an ultrasound, confirmed pregnancy, and stuffed all that in like a folder and put it in the shelf. And we continued on with the pregnancy. I was I was doing diet things, like praying for wisdom to eat what he wanted me to eat for my pregnancy, and he would give me cravings. So I'll get to that in the next video. So if you've ever been pregnant before, there's routine checkups that you go for with your OB. Now, they usually check your blood, they usually check your hydration, and tell you that there's some diet things you need to include in your life, and there's some diet things you might need to take away for pregnancy purposes. Then there's at a certain point, they give certain tests. So they give the Group B strep test. It's like a bacterial infection you can get while you're pregnant. And they give the diabetes check, and they also check like your blood pressure and stuff like that. So again, I'm relying completely on Yahweh for this, and I've been praying, and I'm literally just walking with him. Like, I'm just living my life. I'm just praying, just reading my word. I'm just relying completely on him to meet those needs. So there was one point in my pregnancy, and I can't remember if it was the second trimester or the first. I think it was like second, transition. And I got this huge craving. I drank it all the time for kombucha. I could not get enough of it. I would drink all different flavors of all different kinds. I could not get enough kombucha. I loved the kombucha. Anyways, I just thought it was helping my nausea because I had some nausea, but I couldn't get enough of it. So one of my fellow sisters, she sent me just a compilation of books on home birth and free birth and all this stuff. And I was reading one of them. I started reading one, Childbirth Unhindered. I think that was one I was reading. And it was at the diet section. And I was reading that kombucha, along with some other things like probiotics, certain probiotics, help manage Group B strep. And that was around the point of time that I would have been taking that test at the OB office to see if I needed antibiotics. But Father gave me such a big craving for kombucha that he already took care of prevention of that even forming. And I was like, that is why I've been eating or drinking kombucha like crazy. So boom, need met. So that was the first one that I noticed. So I would read these books sporadically because I couldn't really sit down and read the whole thing because I still had 2 young children and a job. So I found this, along with the kombucha, I found this granola that I just could not stop eating. I was obsessed with it. I loved it. And I still do, but I ate it all the time. So I got to that section in the book about diet, and I've just figured out that kombucha helps fight off Group B strep. And I was also craving this granola, and I was reading that if you wanted supplements for prenatal care, vitamin E is very good in the second trimester because it hits all the points that you need to, build a healthy baby. I was like, vitamin E? Well, I guess I'll go get some vitamin E pills. Well, when I went to go make my granola cereal, because I pour milk in it, I turned around and I just felt like reading the ingredients. It had a big chunk that said full of vitamin E. And next time I went to the store, I looked at the other granolas, and it didn't have any vitamin E in it. It was just the one that I was obsessed with. And I was like, look at you, Father. You did it again. You did it again. You took care of me and gave me a craving. So at that point, I trusted my cravings. If I had a craving, unless it was something like, really bad, if I had a craving, I would go for it because I knew that the Father was giving me these things to protect me and to help me and to guide me along in this pregnancy, because he's already been showing up, and he's already been showing me how he's showed up. Even when I didn't know he was there, he revealed himself to me later, and I just trusted. That's all I did. I just had faith that he had me. I had faith that he creates the life, he sustains us, and he provides for us. If he can provide for the birds of the air, how much more will he provide for his children? So the physical stuff, when it comes with pregnancy, was the easy part. It was the spiritual stuff that was the hard part. So he met my needs physically and easily, to where I would just crave something, and then I would find out later that it was for my protection while I was eating and drinking these things. So I could trust him in the physical, because the spiritual battle was coming. And boy, did it come. It hit me really hard in the end of the second trimester and the third trimester, especially within the people around me who I love. But he was preparing me for the spiritual battle to come, because if you build the trust, and you build the faith, and that's where you get the power. The faith is power, and I needed that power to fight the end of my pregnancy and through my delivery, so he could get the glory, and I can get the protection and the power. So before we get to the third trimester and the spiritual warfare and the attacks and the birth, which I wish I could go back. It was amazing. Some more things that happened in my pregnancy. Physical things. Cinnamon. I had a craving for cinnamon, just like I did for the kombucha and the granola. I had a huge craving for cinnamon. Well, cinnamon controls your blood pressure. Turns out. I also had a craving for this turmeric cereal that I had, so I would be eating cinnamon and turmeric helps with inflammation. And if you are familiar with pregnancy, you know that your joints get inflamed because your body is basically stretching, like from bone outward. It's just stretching, and that would help with the pain, the inflammation, and the cinnamon would help with the regulation of my blood flow, which is really, really neat. But anyway, and I was also drinking a lot of water. So, and if you know me, I don't drink enough water. I don't drink enough water. But I was drinking a lot of water, more than usual, so that was good. And crunching ice. And there's not really evidence to support this, but they say that crunching ice means you have a low iron. But I got pricked at the doctor, and it turns out that my iron was pretty good. I just like eating crushed ice. I ate a lot of that during my pregnancy. I still eat it now. I just like it, but maybe that helps regulate my iron. I don't know. He hasn't revealed that part to me, but anyways, I digress. So, food stuff aside, he took care of those needs. We got that covered. I got my birth pool ordered. We still hadn't found a house. We were house hunting still, and Yahweh shut every door. to a house. And I remember it was right before Passover, and I was reading My House Full of Leaven, well, my internal house, because this is not exactly my house, so I can't just go through and start throwing stuff away. But the stuff that I could control, I got rid of that, and I was just like, Father, this baby's coming, and we don't have a house yet. Like, I want to do your feasts in my own house. I want to give birth in my own house. Like, why haven't you given us a house? But every single time he would just be like, just trust me. And he shut those doors, completely shut those doors. Every single time he would try. And so we were getting a little discouraged, me and my husband, but now we kind of see why. So we were staying with my mother, and I had ordered my birth pool, ordered my kit, ordered the stuff that I needed for delivery, and I was planning on having the baby here. So I started preparing. I started getting my birth kits ready, my pool, getting my mind ready, watching birth videos, reading scripture, and figuring out how this delivery was going to go. So I ordered a blood test on Sneak Peek to find out the gender, because I wanted to get things prepared. I wanted to know. And it turns out it was another boy. So we had 3 boys. And we didn't have a name. It was like 3rd trimester. I'm thinking it was about a month before delivery date. And we could not figure out a name. Boy names are hard. Boy names are hard. We struggled naming Riot. But we kept going through different things. Me and my husband could not agree. And I remember praying, like, Father, if there is a name, that we both can agree on, that you want to give this child, like, if you give this child a name, put the name of that child in my husband's mind and have him love it. And love it. And have me love it. And we can both agree. And let it be known that it came from you. So we were sitting around my kitchen table with my mom, my sister, me, and my husband, and we were playing cards. And we were talking about names and boy names, and my sister said this one name. And my husband kind of got stunned and was taken aback, and he looks at me, and I look back at him, and he goes, I really like that. And I said, I really like that too. It fits with our family really well. And we kind of sat on it for the night to make sure it stuck. And well, it turns out that it really stuck. And the more we thought about it, the more we loved it. So the next day, he went to work and I was on my computer. And I was like, I'm just going to look up this name. I'm going to see what it means. And I looked up the name. And I kid you not, I started bawling my eyes out. Just sobbing. I was crying so hard. I was like, this is my child's name. It was incredible. So my sister said the name Axel, and I'm like, that's nice. And when I looked it up, the definition of Axel, the name meaning of the name Axel is my father is peace. And I knew that it was from him, because the whole pregnancy he's been giving me peace, and everywhere he's been leading me, he's just been peace. And he was reassuring me in that moment that I am your father. I'm this baby's father, and I am peace. I'm giving you my peace, and I'm giving you Axel. I was like, so I had the physical needs met. I had the name. He allowed me to get everything I needed for the labor and delivery, and gave me a home that was safe and secure to have this baby in. And I trusted him completely. Everything that he had said he was going to do, he has done. And there was no reason for me to doubt him. But I'm in a flesh suit. And sometimes those thoughts creep in. And they did in the 3rd trimester. I'll start with my Israelite complaining moment. So, like I said, I only had 1 ultrasound. And for some reason, they wrote my estimated due date down for me at that ultrasound. And remember, I put it away in the closet and just let it alone. And I thought I remembered what that due date was. Well, it turns out I made up a completely different due date in my head. I don't know why I did that. I don't even know where I got it from. But I thought that July 15th was baby's due date. So I had been telling people for months that July 15th was baby's due date. July 15th was baby's due date. Well, due date came and went. And it was like a week later. And I remember I was sitting in my chair, in my rocker, and I was so mad at the father. I was complaining all day. I was in a bad mood. I was irritable. I was just depressed that this baby hadn't come yet. I started to worry, and I started to complain, like, why hasn't this baby come? I was praying, please let this baby come. Please let this baby come. I had gotten in my mindset of birth, and I was ready, and one last scream, why hasn't this baby come yet, in my head. And the father answered in my spirit and was like, don't you trust me? He's like, why are you complaining? Why are you so upset? Go check your ultrasound. And I was like, okay. So I went and checked my ultrasound. And it turns out that I was off by 2 weeks. My ultrasound wasn't even here. My due date wasn't even here yet. And I was sitting here complaining to the Most High, having an Israelite moment, and he just knocked me off that pride horse down to humility island, and he was like, no, my dear, your due date hasn't even come yet, and you need to start trusting me again, like you did this whole time. So he humbled me very hard after that moment, and I began to trust him again completely, in full confidence. So before that lesson on complaining and humility and not to do it, I would just 10 out of 10, do not recommend complaining to the Most High. You just don't do it. Anyway, before that, there was a build of spiritual warfare internally in my mind and around me. He was kind of knocking me back to reality on focus. He was refocusing my mind and reminding me what I'm doing this for. So, as I'm sure as I'm sure is to be expected, there was a lot of pushback in the way that I was choosing to do things throughout this pregnancy and throughout this birth. It was to the point where my loved ones around me couldn't even be excited about this brand new baby coming into the world because they were so focused on the different path that I chose to take, I guess you could say. Their worry and fear prevented them from the joy of a blessing of a baby, and it got to me where the whole first 2 trimesters it didn't. So about a month or 2 before this due date issue arose, I had many attacks kind of come up against me, and by attacks I mean fear, doubt, questioning of my faith and knowledge and wisdom that was being given to me by the Most High, being put on me by others who had come into authority with worry, fear, doubt, anxiety, questioning of faith. And normally, before, I was pretty strong in diverting the attacks, like when they were coming. Like if you aren't going to speak life and you have all this worry and doubt, take it to the Most High, but do not bring it to me, because I don't need that. I need to be hyper-focused on Yeshua and hyper-focused on birth. Take it to Him. Don't bring it around me. Normally, I was pretty, stern when it came to that. But at this point in time, for some reason, it was starting to affect me a little bit and get my focus off of His glory and off of my faith. It was a Peter sinking in the water kind of moment, if you know what I mean. So that Shabbat, before I had found out my true due date, I was a little discouraged, and I wasted a Sabbath being sulky and depressed. And I was talking to my husband, and I just started crying. And I was just like, I've been alone this whole time. And of course I haven't been alone. I've walked this out with Yeshua. I've walked this out with the Most High. I've walked this out with even my husband. But up until that point, he wasn't really on board. Not saying on board, he didn't really want to talk about it. You know, my husband's just kind where he freaks out before, he freaks out after, but in the what word am I looking for? In the heat of things, he's very hyper focused, you know, and that's what I love about him. But anyway, I was crying, and I was like, I've been alone this whole time. Nobody around me. Or I've had 2 pregnancies in the past, and they have all been met with excitement and joy and encouragement. And, you know, this pregnancy was different. While it had been the most spiritual and joyful pregnancy, because I was with, I included, and I let the Most High lead it, and I included him in everything, which made a big difference. But the people around me, it worked the opposite. They secluded themselves from me. They weren't encouraging. When they would talk about the baby, it was always something that negative that could go wrong in the delivery. They wouldn't really get excited. The joy of having a new baby was like sucked from them, and it was like they were walking on eggshells. It was too scary to talk about it, and it got to me, and I started to feel it, you know, and I didn't let myself feel it for good reason, because I knew what the Most High was doing. I knew what he was going to do, and I had complete trust in him, and I was joyful. I was excited. I wanted to be in that moment, and I wanted everybody else to be in that moment with me and see how amazing and awe-striking that our God can be. And I was walking in that joy and excitement alone, and it got to me, and I came into authority with it, and I had a very bad Shabbat, very bad couple days before that. And my husband gently came to me and got me back on focus. And from that point on too, he started getting excited about it. You know, he started watching home births with me. He started watching free births with me, started researching things. I noticed he started to get really excited about it. And where he was kind of just, okay, we're doing this, but I don't want to talk about it yet, you know. But he started to like be in this with me. And that changed a lot, you know, of things with me. But at that moment when he kind of just had a discussion with me, and since, you know, out of privacy, I'm not going to give, you know, details on that discussion. But it kind of refocused me back to, he mentioned, you know, who you're doing this for, you know, and I got really selfish and self-absorbed in that moment, and I thought about me. They're treating me bad, but it's like, why did I walk this path in the first place? Was it for me to get the glory, for me to get the praise? No, it was to give him the glory. And I got distracted, I got tempted, and I gave into that temptation of letting it be about me. And so I was like, you're right. If they doubt, they doubt. That's between them and God. If they don't have faith, that's between them and God. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to focus on his glory, because his glory is going to shine through. And it always proves doubt wrong. His glory does. So I'm going to let him deal with that. And I'm going to get focused back on what he's doing and what blessings he is giving me. Because children Deuteronomy 28, children are a blessing from the Most High. He was blessing me, and this was my walk with him, and I got off focused of that. So that was a rough time. But one I'm grateful for, because it showed me, number one, that I needed to stay focused and remain focused. And number two, it brought me closer to him. And it made me see that you don't need that praise. You don't need that encouragement. You don't need that anything but me and what I am doing in your life to make you joyful. Because, we're so apt to receive joy from other people, but we neglect receiving joy from him. And that was another lesson that he was teaching me, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that he allowed that to happen, because it got me back on focus. That's the whole point. But anyway, so after that, I learned my true due date. And when I learned my true due date, I had to tell everybody that I was wrong. That was another humbling experience. Nobody likes to tell people that they're wrong, and wrong that royally. It was off by 2 weeks. But anyway, so that due date, the real due date, came and went. But this time, after that due date had passed, I wasn't going to do the same thing that I did last time and sulk around. I was firm. I was like, you know what? He's going to bring this baby when this baby wants to come. I am not going to take matters into my own hands. I'm just going to let it happen the way that he wants it to happen, whether that be 2 weeks after my due date, 1 week after my due date, 3 weeks after my due date. I don't know when he's going to have it happen, but I'm going to trust him, because I'm not making the same mistake twice, if you know what I'm saying. Even before, on my fake due date, I tried to take matters into my own hands and do that whole castor oil thing. Don't ever do that, women, just so you know. It is a big mistake. Don't ever do it. If somebody tells you to do it, don't do it. Bad mistake. So almost sent me into preterm labor, and he would have been way not ready. It's a bad idea. Oh, anyway, so that due date came and went. It was a week had passed, and I was just living life. I was doing the things. I was going places. I wasn't even worried about where I was going to give birth, because I knew I had things I prayed for. Here's what I prayed for. I prayed that the boys would be asleep, that it would happen at nighttime, and the boys would be sound asleep. I prayed for it just to be me and my husband, even though my mother was prepared to be there if she needed to be. My sister was like, I'm going to be far away. Birth intimidates her. She's funny. So God answered her prayer on that. That it would be a quick labor. That I would be hyper-focused on him. That it would be spirit-filled and spirit-led. And I had my shofar, my oils. I had all these things planned, but they weren't really, necessary. I prayed for it to be in water and to have a kind of a fetal reflex where it was just quick. I prayed for no tears. I prayed for no bleeding. I prayed for my husband to have excitement and for his prayers to get answered. And they did. We'll get to that when I get to the birth story. I prayed for, what else did I pray for? I prayed for my water to break during labor, even though before labor I was praying for it to break just so I know I was in labor. But the Father knew my true heart's desire, and it was for it to break progressively in labor as I was progressing little by little. So, and every single one of those prayers were. So I knew what I prayed for. I knew Yahweh had that handled. I knew that he knows every single day in my life, in my child's life, and he had this. So I would just kept going about my normal activities, doing what I needed to do, that it would happen the way that he wanted it to happen, and he would protect me through it. And I wasn't really concerned about having a baby in public or anything. So we kept on normal life, and this was post due date. There was one thing I was worried about, though, I will admit, and I was worried about having him on either a Friday or Saturday, because the 8th day after birth would have fallen on a Shabbat or a Sunday, and doctors don't really work on the weekends, and I wanted to get him circumcised on the 8th day as per scripture, and as per that is when vitamin K in babies' bodies skyrockets, and I wanted to get him circumcised on that day. So I was worried I would have him on a Friday or a Saturday, and the 8th day would fall on a Saturday or Sunday. And my amazing husband, who was in this moment filled with the Spirit of God, and he said, I was like, oh, I'm just so worried it's going to happen on this day. Look, it can't happen on this day. And Spencer looks at me and says, babe, he's God. Don't you think he knows his own law? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows it very well, by heart, and better than anybody ever lived. Boom. Another humbled moment. It's like, okay, well, whatever day you want this baby to be born on is the day that he wants this baby to be born on, because he knows his own law. He knows the end from the beginning. So after that point, I was like, it's in your hands. I give it all up. I surrender. So after that castor oil incident, I no longer took matters into my own hands to try to induce labor. I just let y'all handle it. So we went to the fair. Sorry, my kids in the background. We went to the fair the night I went into labor. So I really wanted to go to the fair because, another thing I prayed that was one of the most important prayers. I can't believe I forgot it. And that was for me, Otto, and Riot to have a great last day with just us two, and I really didn't want them to act up to where I had to scold them. I didn't want it to be a bad day and then me have a baby. I wanted to have a great last day and a great last night, and so I had it in my mind that we needed to go to the fair, and we did. Crunch a knife. So I prayed, boys be asleep. We had a great last day. He had protected me and carried me through this pregnancy with amazing flying colors. He had helped me fight off word curses. He'd helped me fight off sexual attack in my mind. He has, as the great physician that he is, he's provided me with great prenatal care and giving me all of the herbals and foods and things that I needed to create a great life. But anyway, so we went to the fair. I prayed so we have a great last day with the boys, and that we have an amazing delivery with no complications, just running smooth. So before I get into the birth story, the last thing that happened was a couple of days before. Well, actually, two things that happened, but one I'm not really comfortable sharing, so I apologize. But the last big thing that happened was it had passed my due date, and the pipes in the house, we have a leak, but the pipes in the house were leaking, and they busted. And so we had to turn off the hot water heater to turn off the water. So every time we wanted to use hot water, we'd have to go turn on the water and then have to turn it back off. This created a complication with a water birth, with warm water. And so we had the clean hose, we had all the things that we needed, but the water, we didn't know if it was going to get hot enough, and we didn't know exactly how that was going to work with broken pipes. I texted my sister and I was like, all the pipes in the house, all the waters have broken in this house except for mine. Just making a joke. But so that was like a prelude to what was about to happen. So we had broken pipes, and I was overdue. It was time. But again, even with broken pipes, I was not worried, because I knew that he was going to figure out a way to make it all happen. And boy did he, because he is God and he is good and he fulfills his promises, and he fulfilled his promise in this too. Even the small things he took care of, and I'm forever grateful for that. So this kind of ends the pregnancy portion of my God baby delivery, and I will get into the birth. But I might have to wait a little bit because life happens. You know.